So as you guys know already, Nintendo announced the next core Pokemon games, and the next core Pokemon games are coming to the Nintendo Switch. And I've already covered this on my channel when the trailer first dropped for the next Pokemon games, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. But I wanted to re-talk about it just because it's been a couple of days since that trailer has been out, and I've been re-watching that trailer, and I wanted to talk more about it just because I think when I first initially talked about it, I was just getting my general thoughts, but now I've had more time to really think about it. Everything's sunken into me, and I really wanted to talk about it. Now, of course, really quickly, we all know that Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee is going to be kind of like a reimagining or a remastering of the actual Kanto region from Gen 1. This time they're actually going to be remaking Yellow specifically because if you didn't know, they've already made Kanto remakes back on the Game Boy Advance, Pokemon Leaf Green and Pokemon Fire Red. So those are kind of already taken care of, so they are going to be doing Yellow. There is some slight different changes that is going to be in Pokemon Yellow that weren't originally in Pokemon Red and Blue. Like for instance, your Pokemon following you was never in the original Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue. Pokemon Yellow was kind of more closer to the original anime than Pokemon Red and Blue, so they can kind of go off of that. And since they are going off of Pokemon Yellow, they can kind of justify them doing that region again, even though they've already remade that region on the Game Boy Advance. So because they can say, well, no, it's technically not a remake of Pokemon Red and Blue, it's technically a remake of Yellow. So that's what they're going to say if someone tries to say they've already remade that region. It is true though, because technically at a base level, Pokemon Yellow is indeed pretty much the same exact region as Pokemon Red and Blue, just with minor differences here and there. So it's not really too different from Red and Blue. So technically it is the same region that we've already had a remix from. So there's that. But let me talk about some things that I wanted to talk about when it comes to these Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. There is a whole bunch to talk to, and I just wanted to get my thought process out there. First of all, am I excited for these games? Definitely, I am 100% excited for these games. I am a hardcore Pokemon fan. I've been a hardcore Pokemon fan pretty much since the beginning. I did grow up with the original Pokemon Red and Blue. My first ever game I played on a handheld was on the Game Boy, and that was Pokemon Red. I still remember playing Pokemon Red for the first time, and I wasn't just your casual fan that just played Pokemon Red. I watched the anime, I got memorabilia, I also played the Pokemon card game. I was a die-hard Pokemon fan back in the 90s, and I absolutely adore everything Pokemon. It wasn't just me that loved Pokemon. A lot of people around me loved Pokemon. Pokemon was the craze back then. Just everybody loved Pokemon back in the 90s, at least where I grew up around. Just everybody loved Pokemon. So I am a die-hard Pokemon fan. Then I jumped to Generation 2, Pokemon Silver and Pokemon Gold. Played those to death as well, because jumping from Red and Blue, it was an easy transition just to go from Pokemon Red and Blue over to Pokemon Silver and Gold. And then after that, I did transition into Ruby and Sapphire. And I know a lot of people, when they went from Silver and Gold over to Ruby and Sapphire, that's where they pretty much lost interest in the Pokemon franchise. And honestly, I don't blame people for getting tired of Pokemon after Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, because Gen 3 is where it kind of gets repetitive. And if you've already played Pokemon Red and Blue, and then you try to migrate all the way up to Gen 3, are you still going to be playing the same core game? Because if you look at all those games, Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, they're pretty much exactly the same games, the core mechanics of Pokemon anyway. So I can see how some people already dropped off the bandwagon when it came to Pokemon, when it comes to Gen 3. I did play Gen 3, but that's where my love for Pokemon pretty much ended, because I was tired of the series. The series didn't speak to me. I was growing up as a person. Overall, nothing else really speak to me. The ones I never really liked as a person was the ones on the DS. I just never really got into them. I tried to play them, just really wasn't my cup of tea back then. I already grew out of the Pokemon craze and everything like that, so I never really played any of them on the DS. The ones I played the most on the DS were the remake of Gen 2. They did do a remake of Gen 2, and I'm pretty sure in the remakes of Gen 2 they actually had the same mechanics they're putting in this remake of Pokemon Yellow. They're actually going to have your Pokemon follow you, which I'm pretty sure in that Gen 2 remake back on the DS, your Pokemon followed you around, which was pretty cool. And then after that, I jumped over to, after the remakes, I pretty much jumped over to X and Y, and I played the whole story of X and Y. I was curious to see how the engine would run on the 3DS, and I was excited for it. And I actually got the limited edition Pokemon X and Y Nintendo 3DS XL, so I did get that system. And then after playing X and Y, I didn't play X and Y hardcore. I pretty much just played the mainline story. I didn't really play online. I didn't really do anything crazy with the game. I just played the main core experience of X and Y. And then after X and Y, I pretty much gave up again on the Pokemon series. So it's been kind of a rocky situation when it comes to the Pokemon series. The one problem I have with the Pokemon series, which some people out there may also have a problem with, is the fact that when you play each installment of Pokemon, when it's a new generation, they don't change enough of the game, in my opinion. Of course, I want to make this clear. This is my opinion, but I don't think like the Pokemon Company changes enough of the game to where I think that I want to continue playing the games when they're so similar to each other. Sure, they add different like gyms, sure they add different Pokemon, sure some of the stuff has changed. Of course, usually when you get a new generation, the engine's different and it's always going to look slightly better because we're always working with new hardware, but that really doesn't appeal to me, so I pretty much lost interest. And it's funny, I lost interest after X and Y, because after X and Y, they made the Gen 3 remake, Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, I think it's called, on the 3DS. They made those remakes, and those were remakes of Gen 3. My favorite generation of Pokemon games has to definitely be Gen 1, Gen 2, and Gen 3. I would probably say I love Gen 1 and Gen 3 more than Gen 2. I know it's hard to believe I love Gen 3 more than Gen 2, but I spent so much time in Gen 3 compared to Gen 2. I just love Gen 3. Gen 3, out of every single game I've ever played as a Pokemon fan, I played the most of Gen 3. So there's that. That's probably why I don't have as much love for a Gen 2. I definitely have more love for Gen 1. I think I actually spent more time in Gen 1 than Gen 2, and then I spent more time in Gen 3 than Gen 2, and then after that, pretty much I stopped playing Pokemon. And this is why this game's very exciting for me. One reason the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee are very exciting for me is because I am an original fan. I grew up with the game, and this really does speak to me coming from a fan that's grew up with the series and played my very first game as a kid. This just really harkens back to those old days as being a child, playing this game for the first time, turning on my Game Boy, watching this little character go around the screen, not knowing what this experience is, catching these different creatures. It's overall the experience as a kid playing my Pokemon Red on my Game Boy was a fantastic experience, and that is something I do enjoy, and I do wish I could go back in time to revisit. And this is pretty much what these Pokemon games are doing. They're pretty much making me go back to my childhood where I first played Pokemon Red as a little kid, and this is absolutely exciting news for me because I can feel like I'm going back in time with this remake. Sure, of course, it's not the same exact thing. It's a reimagining, and it's going to be in a new engine, and also it's going to be with better graphics. It's going to be on a home console for the first time, of course. This is the first time Pokemon is going to be on a home console. This is very exciting news. This thing just really does speak to me. And let's talk about some of the changes that are going to be in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. Some of the most obvious changes that they're doing to the normal Pokemon mechanics is going to be, of course, the fact that they are going to be implementing Pokemon Go type implementation into this game. I know a lot of people on the internet are saying, well, I don't really like Pokemon Go, so this game doesn't really appeal to me, or I like Pokemon Go, so this may appeal to me. It looks like what they're going to be doing is they're going to be actually changing the way you battle, the way you catch wild Pokemon. It looks like the way you catch wild Pokemon is going to be flicking the Pokeball like you do in Pokemon Go. Now, I never played Pokemon Go, so this will be a new experience for me, flicking the Pokeball. It's just gonna kind of suck though if you get like an Ultra Ball, or especially the Master Ball, and you flick it and you miss. That would absolutely be an epic fail on your part, but there's that. Honestly, in my opinion, I'm okay if Nintendo wants to put some Pokemon Go type implementation into Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. They're trying to bank off the fact that Pokemon Go was one of the biggest success stories in Nintendo's history, and that is true, so I don't blame them for putting Pokemon Go type implementation into the game. They're trying to capture the crowd who played Pokemon Go, and they're also trying to bring back the old fans. Maybe the old fans are getting bored of the actual same gameplay that they played for many years, like me, myself. I'm one person that's fallen out of love with Pokemon just because it's the same thing every year, and I'm not really really wanting to pay whatever it is to pay for a new game. I'm just not feeling it. But maybe this is enough for me to get back into the franchise. Even something as simple as just flicking a Pokeball might be enough for me. And even those people on the internet that are complaining, they're changing some stuff like the way you capture Pokemon or the way you find random encounters. I think this game just speaks to a whole different crowd of people. This is not a Pokemon game that's going to blow your socks off. This is for people who play Pokemon Go, and this is also for people who grew up with Pokemon like myself. The next generation of Pokemon is coming next year, they have confirmed, in 2019. So it's actually really good that a lot of companies don't have to cater their games to every single audience. They're not trying to focus on every single person. So if you're a hardcore Pokemon fan, honestly, this may not even speak to you. This may be a game you may want to avoid and wait until next year, because we know the main core Pokemon game is coming next year. This is just something to really bring in old fans and really to get people excited for the next Pokemon game that is coming on the Nintendo Switch. So while they have this game out, it'll tide us over, and then when next year comes out, you'll be real ready to actually play this game, play the next generation of Pokemon games on your Nintendo Switch. One thing I was worried about this game not having, I was actually worried that this game may not actually have online implementation, because if you look at the trailer for Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, you see nowhere in the actual trailer that they're actually going to have multiplayer for this title, but it looks like online, it is confirmed that they are going to have some type of online multiplayer. Now it looks like they're not going to be going really in depth when it comes to the actual online of this game. Same thing with a lot of the mechanics of this game. So if you're a diehard Pokemon fan that really takes your Pokemon serious, you love to battle people online, you love to train your Pokemon hardcore, you love to do everything Pokemon has to offer, it just seems like this game is not going to be catering to the hardcore Pokemon fans, and that's absolutely okay, and that's why I'm actually really excited about this game. One thing that's getting me excited about this game is the graphic art style. I know some people on the internet, everywhere I look, some people are complaining that the art style is still too cartoony, or it looks kind of like plasticky. I've heard that word in a lot of different videos and a lot of different like forums online. Some people said the graphics just look a little bit plasticky, if that makes any sense. Honestly, coming from me, if you didn't know something, I love a lot of things that are cutesy. I love different colors and whatnot. I just love cutesy things, and I think this game really does speak to me. I think this is a perfect graphic style for the next for the remakes of Pokemon Yellow. I love the art style. I love the fact that Eevee and Pikachu are actually going to be following you around and riding you and being on your back. I know Eevee is on top of your hat the whole time, and I know Pikachu is on your back the whole time. I absolutely love that. Overall, I love the art style of this remake that they're going for. Sure, could they have made the Pokemon series much more realistic? Yeah, they could have made it much more realistic, but honestly, I prefer it this way. That's just my opinion. I know some people wanted Pokemon to go in a much more realistic, much more hardcore graphical style, but for me, this fits the bill perfectly well. There's just so much going on. I'm just so excited as an actual person and as an actual gamer, and especially a gamer that grew up in the 90s with the Pokemon franchise. This game really speaks to me, and I am glad Nintendo's doing this, because hey, it might mean the next generation of Pokemon may be mind-blowing, or it may disappoint me again. Honestly, I don't know how I'm going to think when I actually play the game, because right now it's really too early to say how well this game is going to be when you actually play it, because we only got one trailer, and there's really not enough in the trailer to really go by to know if this game is going to be a good game or whatnot. I know for a fact that this game is not going to flop. It's going to be one of those games that's going to sell groundbreaking on the Nintendo Switch. It's probably going to break records. It's going to be setting a whole new milestone when it comes to gaming, when it comes to sales figures, when it comes to system sellers. This is going to be mind-blowing. One thing that I do want to mention about the new Pokemon Yellow remake is the fact that I do want to kind of touch on the random encounters, because it looks like the way the random encounters work are going to be much more different than any other Pokemon game. It looks like when you counter Pokemon in the wild, they're actually going to appear on the map. So it looks like you'll be able to avoid counters, and you'll be able to see what Pokemon that you get to battle when it comes to random encounters in the grass and like in caves and like in the water and things like that. And I honestly like that aspect of the game for one reason. It makes Pokemon feel like it's breathing. It's a breathing, functional world like that. Just having random battles pop up doesn't really make it feel like you're breathing in the Pokemon world. But having Pokemon in the grass, when you walk up to the grass and they're all like running around, or they're just walking and doing their own business. I think that's absolutely fantastic just because it makes you feel like you're in the world. And that's one thing I wanted Pokemon to focus a little bit more on. I want the Pokemon Company, our Game Freak, to focus more on the actual environment itself. I want to feel like I'm encaptured in this whole Pokemon world. I want to feel like I'm a trainer in the world, and I feel like I'm actually there. And that's one thing, that's one step closer to making me feel like I'm actually in the world of Pokemon. So if they can do that, that's great. I don't know how it's going to work with certain aspects of the game, like how much randomness is going to be there. When do Pokemon come up, when do Pokemon not come up. I know a lot of people on the internet were talking about also the fact that in caves it's sometimes a mess, especially when you see a lot of Zubats or a lot of Geodudes or something like that, and I do have to agree. That's one thing I do like that this remake will actually solve. It kind of makes me feel like that maybe this should be the way the next Pokemon generation should be, the next true generation. Maybe they shouldn't do random battles anymore. Maybe they should just have Pokemon, when you come up to the grass, you can already see what type of Pokemon you want to battle, and you can choose what type of Pokemon you want to battle. Overall, that's just a really good thing for me. I don't know also about the Pokemon Go implementation, because as a person, I don't really play a lot of mobile games. I know some people out there play mobile games, but I'm not really a mobile gamer when it comes to actually like iOS or Android. I don't play those types of games. So it'll be interesting to see what type of implementation they're going to be put into the game, because this may be the first time I actually go hardcore into a mobile application or a mobile game, let's say, because if they do a really good implementation with Pokemon Go, I will be using my cell phone all the time to go outside. I'll find a way to go capture these Pokemon, and then I'll transfer them to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. Now, as it stands right now, just looking at these two trailers, it looks like the game that I'm going to be going for on day one, I'm definitely going to be going for Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, in my opinion, because I've already played Pokemon Yellow. I already had Pikachu as my starter, so this would be a nice experience getting a different Pokemon right out the gate. I'll be able to get Eevee as my starter, and it's very cool that Eevee is going to be on your hat the whole time. I just think that's absolutely cute and absolutely a brilliant idea. Now I'm going to talk about the Pokemon, the actual Pokemon accessory. They are actually releasing a Pokemon accessory to go with this game. This is not the first time we've seen something like this when it comes to Pokemon. The last Pokemon game to have an actual accessory was the Gen 2 remakes back on the DS. Soul Silver and Heart Gold, they had an accessory called the Pokewalker. It was kind of a way to train your Pokemon outside of the game. I think this might function something like this. We do know from the trailer for a fact that this Pokemon accessory will allow you to actually play the full entire game on the actual Pokeball itself. I don't know how comfortable that's going to be holding a Pokeball to play like a 40-hour game or a 20-hour game. I don't know how that would feel, but I don't think that's the main point of this Pokeball. I think the main point of this Pokeball is going to be the fact that you can take your Pokemon out with you and you can play with this and make it feel like it's a real life breathing thing, which is pretty awesome. That's the main point of this, to make it feel like you can take this thing around like your backpack or just take it with you places and you can play around with it. I think it's a brilliant idea, depending on how much Nintendo charges on this Pokeball accessory, this Pokeball controller, let's call it. Honestly, I also don't know how much this Pokeball accessory is going to cost from Nintendo, because Nintendo could pretty much charge anything they want for this Pokeball accessory, and they know if they charge like $30 or $40, die-hard fans of this series are going to buy that thing, even if it's overpriced. So let's hope it only costs around $20. I may end up picking up this Pokeball accessory if it only costs $20. If it costs around $30 or $40, then no, not really for me, because that's pretty much almost getting close to a price of an actual another full game. So I don't know how I feel about this, but overall my excitement for this game is very, very excited. And honestly, I'm going to be trying to cover more Pokemon news on my channel just because I'm excited for this specific remake altogether. It just embodies me. It just makes me happy as a person. I'm very excited. I also want to know more details about the online aspect of this game, because right now we know nothing about the online aspect of the game. I know they're not really trying to focus on the online aspect of the game, but they did state that there's going to be some kind of online functionality when it comes to this game. Even if it's a little bit bare bones, I still want to know about it. That'll give me more incentive. That'll get me, not incentive. That'll get me more excited to actually play this game on day one. Overall, this is looking like a very good year for Nintendo, not just with the Pokemon crowd, but with a lot of different areas. Smash Brothers is coming out this year too, and my wallet's gonna be gonna be empty when it comes around the holiday season, when it comes November or December. Because let's face it, most likely this game not most likely. Scratch that. I apologize. We already know the release date for this game is coming out in November. I think it was like November 18, November 14, somewhere in the middle of November. I do know for a factor, and we don't know the true release date for Smash Brothers. And if Smash Brothers comes out in November, oh my God, there's gonna be so many games to play. A lot of people are still banking off the fact Smash Brothers may be coming when the release of the Nintendo Online comes in September, or it may be coming early as October. I don't know if Nintendo should release this next generation of Pokemon at the same time they release Smash Brothers, because those are two very big games. Granted, this is a remake of Pokemon Yellow, so it's not really too big of a deal. But then again, if you think about it, it is an absolutely big deal just because this is the first time we got a true core Pokemon game on a home console. We've never had a true core Pokemon game on a console before. Every single core or main series Pokemon game has been on some kind of handheld. They've all been on Game Boys, and since they've all been on Game Boys, this is going to be an amazing thing that we get to play a Pokemon game in HD. That's also what's making me super excited about this. Just to see some of the areas that I played as a kid in full HD. It's going to be very, very mind-blowing. Honestly, I'm very, 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 very excited about this. I can't stress enough how excited about this is. I just hope that this thing plays in full 1080p. Even if it doesn't play in full 1080p, I think I'll still be okay if it played slightly less than 1080p with 60 frames per second. But I'm sure with this game, with Game Freak working on this game, and since they've probably been working on this game for quite some time now, maybe they've even been working on it since last year, I'm pretty sure that this game most likely will run in 1080p, 60 frames per second, and this game's gonna look gorgeous. I just really can't wait for this game to come out, and that's really why I'm repeating myself. I'm just talking about this game. I'm just so excited to see what's out there for the next Pokemon games, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for me talking about Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.